I'm Perkins, CEO, there we go, CEO of the Global Pulse Confederation. And welcome to our little fireside chat here. We're going to spend 30 minutes just talking to you about the world of pulses. We've only got 30 minutes. So there's a lot to unpack in that time because there's a lot of great stories to tell about our industry. But it is getting to that time of day, where the energy starts to drop a bit in the room. It gets a bit flat this time in the afternoon. So, we want to make this as an impactful and insightful session as possible. We welcome any engagement, any questions to our panelists from the room. And let's try and bring a bit of energy, and certainly pulses are good at doing that. So you heard the introduction, but I don't want to necessarily assume that everybody knows what pulses are. Because we can be a bit of a niche sector in the agri-food industry. So maybe by a show of hands, if you're very confident to explain what pulses were, who would be able to explain that? Maybe a show of hands in the room. Don't be shy. I know these people do. Yeah. So what you can see from that is that there is, from our perspective, quite a lot of work to do from an awareness point of view on the subject of pulses and perhaps some of the terminology around the grouping of our agri-food industry. The good news is I think everybody does know what pulses are, but it's some of that awareness around the terminology. So they are the dry edible seeds of all the legume family plants. So the main crops in pulses being chickpeas, which everybody knows and loves here in this region, and then all sorts of different peas, beans, lentils. There's many others. And whilst it is sort of a niche area of agriculture, there's around 100 million tonnes of production worldwide, and about 20% of that is traded. So we, as the Global Pulse Confederation, we are the apex body for the industry. So we represent the entire value chain of the industry from farm to fork. One of our main remits is facilitating free and open trade for the pulses industry. We represent over 600 private company members, over 20 different national associations. But the other area of impact we do is providing solutions to some of the major issues and problems that's facing the agri-food systems in the world. Things like the challenges of climate change, malnutrition, food insecurity, are major issues, and pulses are a wonderful solution to that. Absolutely rich in the nutritious value of pulses is absolutely key. Rich in protein, fiber, iron, vitamins, and in fact they are a food staple in many different cultures around the world and a significant percentage of the world's population. They're also an incredible crop in the way that they can, from an environmental and sustainable food system perspective, they can sequester nitrogen from the soil, from the earth, which then regenerates soil health, reduces the need for synthetic fertilizers in your farming, and they're a great crop to add to your rotation, even in small quantities. If you are doing a major crop rotation, including pulses in there, does wonders for the soil health. They're drought resistant. They need little water, and are fantastic in reducing the overall carbon footprint of your system. So there's so many great stories to tell. I've got two wonderful esteemed gentlemen joining me here today. Firstly, Sudhakar Tomar, who's the president of the India Middle East Agri Alliance. Sudhakar is globally recognized in our industry, especially as a thought leader on sustainable food systems. If I do go through his pedigree and CV, we'll lose the 30 minutes. But the thing I love about Sudhakar the most is he might be the most passionate person that I've ever met when it comes to talking about pulses, and we're going to hear that from him. Also, we've got Yasin Ranani, the managing director of the Amir Group, who has been here and founded his company since 2002, and they're one of the leading food brands in the UAE now. So he's got a lot of expertise from the trade side and also a lot of deep experience in food processing, production, exports, and the finance side of the pulses trade also. So Sudhakar, I'll start with you. So you've been an absolute long-time champion of pulses as a cross-cutting solution to making our agri-food systems more resilient. So I want to talk about it from your perspective in regards to how can we scale up pulse production and consumption, specifically in the context of tackling climate change, and let's talk about it regionally as well.
Thank you, Ryan, and good afternoon. I know we have not had food, so maybe there is a little bit of hunger energy, but I would definitely disagree with you. Each and every person who's sitting here in the room knows about pulses, lentils, beans, peas, chickpeas. If anyone here who has eaten dal or falafel or hummus or kosheri or full madamas knows about the pulses, because all these pulses, they go inside them. So we all know about pulses. So I would say pulses were our past, they are our present, and they are the future. That's why this is the only agricultural commodity or the food which has been featured in the future of food. So I think we have, like, let's take an example of Dubai. Real estate is a very big segment here. So when we talk about pulses, think of pulses as the superhero or the superfood of agricultural and food systems. And this is that good deal which you get from a broker, which is going to make you multiple times of return. Not many people, especially the grain and agriculture industry or the trade industry, knows about it. That's why you see less buzz about it. But there should be the loudest buzz about pulses in our industry, in our trade. So as Ryan said nicely, that pulses are legumes, beans, peas, and lentils. So in overall scenario, pulses are grown pretty much all over. Globally, we grow 100 million tons of pulses now, which has doubled in last 50 years the global production. And from 100 million tons, the global trading, which means going from one country to the other country, international trading of pulses is about 21 million tons, which has grown tenfold. So imagine the production has only doubled, but the trading has increased tenfold, 1,000%. So there is a tremendous opportunity to talk about pulses, to grow more pulses, to consume more pulses, and also use pulses in all food ecosystem and supply chain as in ingredients. And that is the role and the job of the confederation, which Ryan very nicely heads, Global Pulse Confederation. So I feel the need for increasing the production is because when you compare 100 million tons of global production of pulses with the big things in food systems like wheat and corn or soybean, it is a small production. But when you talk about the sustainability, when you talk about how protein-filled these staples are, then you realize there is a tremendous scope to use pulses not only as a staple food, which we have known all our life. Here, I'll digress a little bit. The oldest things where pulses were found was when in Egypt, again talking about the Middle East and in the Middle East. So you know the whole story about pyramids. The kings and their entire families were buried there for being prepared for an afterlife. The food product which was being buried with them was the lentils. It was so important. And it was more than the weight of the gold. So idea is to re-understand, re-energize, and use them in our food processing industries. And tremendous things are happening all over the world. We need to increase, our mission should be as a body, as companies or as traders dealing in pulses, to increase, basically double the production, double the consumption from here going on, and let us not wait for the next 50 years to double the production or make consumption 10 times. We should do that within 10 or 15 years' time. And then we'll talk more.
Yeah, and I think to tie it back as well to some of the climate change mitigation aspects of it as well. I mean, talking about it specifically from a UAE perspective also, Global Pulse Confederation, we're proudly based here in the UAE. And I think one of the things I've seen that's come out last year in some legislation from the UAE government is in relation to Federal Law number 11 in relation to carbon mandates and measurements. So there's incentives for organisations who are able to decarbonise and be able to produce some metrics around that. So there's great incentives for people who are in the pulse trade from some of those, from a regulatory perspective for some of those decarbonisation aspects as well. So yeah, thank you, Sudhakar. So let's maybe talk about trade from the UAE, from a specific UAE perspective. And Yasin, there's no better person placed to discuss that. So let's talk about the UAE as a trade hub, despite the fact that there's no local production here. So what, from your perspective, what makes it such an attractive, such a uniquely positioned place as a global hub for the pulse trade?
Hi. Just to introduce myself, I'm Yasin Abdul Majid from Amir Food Industries. We are here since 2002, and just to answer Rian's question or to carry on the discussion from the global or a broader perspective and drawing down to UAE. UAE has grown in the supply and processing of pulses in the last 2 decades with a massive jump. We have seen new factories opening up, new technologies coming in and adapting to the processing of pulses, which was the need of an hour. And definitely it has given UAE as a recognition or a broader recognition in the pulses trade. As Ryan rightly mentioned, we don't grow any pulses in the UAE, but definitely we are one of the leading exporter to the region. What gives us an upper hand is the proximity to 80% of the population, which is around 8 days of sailing from the Dubai. Within the radius, we can cover Africa, we can cover up to Indian subcontinent. We can reach to the south, to the Central Asian region, which are again, some of them are growing areas, some of them are consuming areas. When talking about it, on my personal view, we are importing almost from 45 countries around the world currently, and exporting, processing it from Dubai and exporting to next 40 countries around the world. So Dubai gets an edge on this thing, on the logistical thing, well-developed ports, good facility, ease of finance, ease of infrastructure, all those infrastructure which is helping the industry to grow. The weather, yes, pulses need, the processing needs a dry weather comparative to if you're processing in the growing regions like Canada or Russia. It is much more easier, convenient, and cheaper to process in the UAE. So yes, many factors are covering and many factors are supporting the processing of pulses in UAE.
Yeah, and perhaps, I mean, it's very much that it's got the advantage of being like a re-export market as well. So would you say that there's been, you know, with some of the turmoil and some of the tariff situations globally this year, do you think the UAE's been a benefit of that?
US been always good on the trade terms, and UAE has developed because of the trade. The priority in UAE is trade. The tariffs, as per the industry, it's to the minimum. And whether if the industries, they are given an additional benefit of 5% duty benefit to cover their processing cost or to be more competitive in the world market. This is how we have grown. I would say in the last 1 decade, the import of pulses has increased more than 300,000 tons. Before we were around 400,000 tons. Today we are more than 750,000 tons annually. So this has given an cutting edge to the industry, plus the logistical development.
What's the time frame of that growth?
Sorry?
The time frame of that growth?
Last 10 years.
Yeah.
The last 20 years, the industry has grown a lot, but last 10 years, we have almost doubled the import of pulses. When we are talking about the initiatives, now the UAE is taking initiative, we are building a pulse terminal dedicated only for pulses, which has not been thought of in a major importing countries like India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and consuming countries. So with the help of DP World and Jewelry Ports, Pulses terminal is coming up as a dedicated terminal for pulses, for the trade of pulses, to facilitate not only the region, but the entire world. to create it as a hub of pulses. So again, going to the first question, we are not the growers of pulses, but definitely within very good supply chain and infrastructure and facilities, we are resilient to support the supply chain of pulses in the global trade.
Yeah, okay. And as a follow-up, Yasin, what have you seen in regards to innovations on the supply chain side or technological advances in the industry over the last few years?
Well, that is always, with the UAE, we are always a step ahead from the rest of the world. It's very new, very advanced. We are coming up with the state-of-art machines, the processing, minimum wastage of the food product. That is all helping us to enhance the facilities. Plus, it is also supported by the Ministry of Industry and Finance to intervene, to take or adopt artificial intelligence into the pulses processing, which will help us to reduce labor, which will help us to get the maximum output out of the processing percentage, which again helps to be more competitive in the world market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to pivot now and maybe talk a bit more about consumption habits. Because we've seen, I mean, we talk about the UAE, we've seen tremendous growth in the trade of pulses here. I mean, we're talking about going from 450,000 to 750,000 tons, so that's almost 100%. In terms of consumption habits in the region, we are seeing growth, but it's more in the sort of 1% to 2% range annually. So I want to talk to you, maybe I'll throw to you, Sudhakar, but the concept of dietary change and governments driving health forward initiatives in regards to nutrition really it's on the tip of the tongue of all globally at the moment. You've seen it's very topical in the US. We're seeing great leadership from the UAE government as well in regards to driving nutritious agenda for societies. So what can we do to sort of increase, I guess, that consumption growth, start to change people's dietary habits, and essentially get people eating more pulses? What are some of the initiatives?
So that is a very interesting question. So traditionally, what we have seen, of course, on the climate change, which I did not touch upon, I'll speak a bit later. But historically and traditionally, it has been shown that when the per capita income or the increasing in purchasing power of any population grows up, the consumption of fat and meat goes up. And so this has been traditionally and historically proven in the South Asia, in the Western world, and we see the same prevalence in the Middle East. So because of being a prosperous nation, the consumption of meat and fats is high in the GCC. And the government is very well aware about that. So there's the highest prevalence of diabetes and other related issues are there in the population. So it was very encouraging to see the UAE's food security drive or the policy had in the basket the inclusion of pulses. So that was a deliberate inclusion. But then I think what we should question and answer the issue is how do we include pulses in our diet in a way which is also traditional. Of course, that is the basic driver of the growth. But how do we make sure that it remains in our new ecosystem? So one good thing which has been happening here is inclusion of pulses, lentils, beans, peas, and all the ingredients made from pulses going into the food products. And it is only the common knowledge, if you go to any supermarket or any health store, you'll see these days the protein supplements. And chances are 90% of those protein supplements are from the pea protein or lentils protein. I myself started consuming that. So I think the key should be preserve our traditional market of consuming pulses the way we have been doing, and inclusion of pulses as an ingredient in all the food products, in all the processed products across the value chain. So that's where the real driver is going to come. And also to add Yasin's point that UAE has become a big producer of pulses, and which is very heartening to see that a small nation like UAE, which has only population of 9 to 10 million people, but what we forget, we have also 18 million tourists which come here every year. And we have also a very sizable export market. So from here, we are catering to many countries. And if you look at the overall UAE processing industry, we're talking about 7-8 plants with installed capacity of almost, I was talking to Yasin, he gave me a number of around 3,000 tons a day. So we have the capacity of importing and processing 3,000 tons pulses a day, which gives us about 1 million tons. So that is the scope we have in terms of increasing the industry. And I think the organizers of this industry have understood very nicely the importance of pulses. That's why I'm very happy and I congratulate them that they included such an important topic for all the audience. Many times it happens, something is on the agenda and people are not there, but then it remains in the ecosystem and you'll see more awareness and more buzz about it. As regards to the climate change, how for a Middle Eastern region, especially semi-arid with less rain, harsh climate country, pulses are the only, probably the only agricultural crop which fixes nitrogen in soil. So it does not require nitrogen fertilizer. So think of it, it's like a natural seed which fixes the nitrogen without any mechanical intervention. So they are extremely climate smart and regenerative crops and sustainable as well. And they are also good for your pocket because, of course, they're not expensive as meat. They're also very good for your sustainability and they're good for your health. I mean, if there is anything which ticks all the boxes, I mean, it is the pulses, and that's why we are sitting here. That's why we are the only one who are included in the agenda.
Yeah.
So just Ran, to add to your question regarding the consumption, what Sudhakar initially mentioned, that pulses have been consumed in the region in traditional, the past and the present, everyone would have the dishes from pulses when we talk about a lentil soup or a hummus or a falafel. It is a part of our diet and it will continue to be a part of the diet. But what is required at this time to change or to add into this is the form which we are presenting. Let's say the innovations which are coming as a pulses dough or pulses pasta, which is driven, which can cater the population which is untouched, diverting them to a healthy eating habits or a healthy food, which will also add to the consumption of pulses. Probably the awareness is there, but the cuisine is different. It has been traditionally defined different. We have the Mediterranean cuisine, we have the South Asian cuisine, which cannot go. They can prepare a 7-course meal out of pulses. But when you're talking on an Italian pasta or a cookie, we need to come to their level to provide them the ingredients or to provide the pulses in that form so that it can be included in the diet. So that is one of the things which we are working on. We are working on those sustainable and reachable solutions where we can cater or we can enter the markets which are untouched.
Yeah, I think that's I mean, I can talk about it from a personal perspective, coming from a traditional Western diet. I wasn't exposed to pulses when I was young, but then when I became, my teenage years, it started coming into our diet and as a complementary to certain dishes. And now we're seeing it becoming so much more prominent across all cultures, not just in staple diets, but also as complementary elements to all different culture and cuisines. And I think it's what we're seeing now is the addition of pulse-based protein, so alternatives to pasta, pulse-based pasta. Things like pea powder is really getting prominence. So, yeah, we're talking about the future of food here at this forum, but pulse is really, when we talk about the future, we believe this is one of the biggest areas of growth in all of agriculture. And as Sudhakar mentioned, it's the climate. this is the climate-friendly protein. So I guess on that, Sudhakar, like what are some of the things that I think about from a global Pulse Confederation point of view, from an organization, what are some of the partnerships or initiatives that we can look at to really position our foothold as that climate-friendly protein source?
I think we have a question there which we'll come back. I'll quickly answer this. So as an industry and as a body, we have done some amazing partnerships. Global Pulse Confederation and the bodies and the people around it. We have done partnership with the COP where Ryan was very actively involved. We have 16 national associations through which we reach close to 5.5 million farmers globally who grow pulses. We are also very actively lobbying through India Middle East Agri Alliance to somehow, lobby is the bad word, but somehow to influence upon the EU Parliament delegation to get the farmers some carbon credits if they go pulses. Because this is the only crop or the only agri-food known to farmers or mankind which naturally fixes nitrogen in the soil. There is nothing else. There is no other seed or agriculture food which does that. So we are trying to do that. I think the number of MOUs which we have signed is numbers more than 20.
It's not just, sorry to interrupt, but it's not just about the carbon credits. It's also about providing some guarantees around procurement of their crops as well. Because obviously you have to provide the right commercial incentives for the farmers too.
Of course.
And that's what we as GPC are working on some of those initiatives at the moment in India specifically.
It's also about improving the soil quality.
So when we're talking, it's not only about the nitrogen fixing, also improving the soil quality because you don't need artificial fertilizer. You also not only reduce, sequester, but also save onto the chemical inputs on the soil. So that is on the regenerative or the climate smart side.
So Sudhakar, I'll just tell you that UAE has started growing wheat. There was wheat farming done. So they should also include a cycle of pulses in a couple of years to improve the soil quality. 100%. So we may have some, we should see some local grown pulses coming to our factories.
That means I've got some lobbying to do, it seems. Do we have a question from the audience? Was there a question? Can we get a microphone, maybe? Is there a microphone in the front, please?
Can you just...
Or if you've got a loud voice, you can yell. Here we go.
Is it okay to have a question? Yeah. Okay, so I've heard everything you've said. I do like pulses. I eat them quite a bit. But my big problem with them is I haven't found a creative way to cook them that makes them interesting.
We're not able to hear. Can you just... No,
I got it. So I think I understood correctly. You want to know the creative ways in cooking pulses.
Well, there's so many great chefs here in Dubai and in the UAE. You could have a competition of creative ways of doing pulses.
So we did something like this. In fact, that's very good that you asked. It reminded me of. So as Confederation in 2016, we very actively pursued all the governments, trade bodies, and through the Confederation, we got 2016 declared as the United Nations Year of Pulses. And one of the things which we did in that year to run a global competition about the pulses recipe. So normally, traditionally, you see the pulses recipe from the South Asia, from the Middle East. We all know our hummus, falafel, shorbadadas. We know dal, we know all the things. But that year, we ran competitions in about 80 countries. And we have a collection of recipe of 456 of recipes. You'll find Japan, Korea, Iceland. So we'll be very happy to send you that link. And I'll also provide that links to the organizer. Mr. Saleh is sitting here. I'll also send to him so that it can go to all the participants. And at least we create new buzz
and we'll do a series of delicious recipes on our website as well. And we also do here.
And the other message that you've got is the digestive health. The amount of resistant starch that's in pulses is much higher than in anything else that we could eat. And in Australia, the baked beans took off because that message was communicated about the resistant starch and how that gets to your large intestine and is fermented and produces all those good health outcomes. When you talk about putting pulses into pasta, I think you lose some of those things. So I think because of a food technology issue, but I think you do have a really good health story of eating whole boiled pulses in some form that gives you a really good way. So you've got sustainability, but you've also got a huge health story there. And when there's obesity issues, which I don't know about here, but that digestive story of resistant starch is a very powerful one.
100%. And thank you for your advocacy and support, because it's bang on. And clearly the story we have to tell is an amazing one. And I'm seeing it here locally in Dubai as well. Like, a lot of the cafes are starting to have a lot more pulse-based dishes on the menu, and that there is that rise of popularity in as well. So that the benefits are amazing. We're almost out of time. Maybe just a quick wrap up from both of you. Just to sum up some of we are, as I said, talking about the future of food here. So perhaps some of where there might be any knowledge gaps that we can look at from an industry point of view, and really, final thoughts on how we can grow the future of pulses.
So one thing I would say, taking the inputs both from Global Pulse Confederation, India Middle East Agri Alliance, and Bharat Subcontinent Foundation, is that till now, in last 50 years, the pulses production globally has doubled to 100 million tons, and the trade has increased 1,000%. But this is more of an organic growth because of the initiatives from the Confederation, the enthusiasm and the efforts of the trade community, sustained effort from the global multinationals, or the governments have not been really there. I feel that if we pool together our knowledge, resources, and willingness, and make everybody aware about all the aspects and benefits of the pulses in terms of health, soil, nutrition, climate, functionality, affordability, we can easily reduce that lead time of 50 and 10 years to maybe 4-5 years, especially with the advent of AI. A very nice ecosystem of opportunities and resources. I see very bright future for pulses for the future of food.
Yes, on my side, yes. I'm talking only on the UAE side. UAE definitely is committed to develop or to increase the consumption of pulses, as well as the supply of pulses from UAE to the rest of the world, with the storage capacities increasing, with the production capacity increasing, and processing increasing, technologies coming into this. We also have some gaps left, as I mentioned, towards converting the pulses into the pea protein or protein powders intakes, which is like a vegetarian protein intake, diverting them from the animal source of protein or a dairy source of protein. So that is more important for to create an enthusiasm, or even to, as you say, a healthy dietary habit into the generation, or to the population coming in, which is much more seen now. So we need to gear up on that, and that is some areas which we will need to work on.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all very much for your time. Don't sleep on pulses, and wish you a wonderful day.
Thank you.